I didn't raise my voice. I didn't slam any doors. I just picked up the phone and started making calls. The first was to my lawyer. The second was to my financial advisor. The third was to a real estate agent I've trusted for 20 years. By the time the sun dipped below the horizon that evening, I had set a machine in motion that nobody in my family saw coming. I'm getting ahead of myself. My name is Robert Chun. I'm 63 years old. For the past 14 years, I've been a stepfather to a woman named Victoria. When I married her mother, Patricia, Victoria was 18, fresh out of high school, full of dreams that seemed to change with the wind. Patricia was a widow, graceful and kind. Or so I thought. Victoria had lost her biological father at 12. I never tried to replace him. I never claimed to be her dad. I was just trying to be there. And I was there for 14 long years. Paid for her tuition at UBC. I paid for the apartment because the dorms were too noisy. I bought her car, funded her educational trip to Europe, and bankrolled her first business venture. When that business folded in 6 months, I didn't say a word. I just paid the debts and helped her sweep up the glass. I was there at 2 a.m. for the breakups. I was there for the food poisoning. I was there for every fight she had with her mother. Victoria was the closest thing I'd ever have to a daughter. My first marriage ended before we could have children, and I saw this as my second chance at family. I wanted to do it right. 2 months ago, Victoria got engaged to a man named Connor. Nice enough guy, worked in tech. They planned a massive wedding at a vineyard in the Okanagan Valley. 200 guests, string quartets, the works. When Patricia asked how much we should contribute, I told her not to worry. I'll take care of it all, I said. It's what fathers do. Even stepfathers. Victoria hugged me. She actually cried. She said I was the best, that Connor's family could never afford this. Patricia squeezed my hand across the dinner table. I should have known better. 3 weeks ago, they came over to go over the seating arrangements. The politics of who sits where. While we were looking at spreadsheets, Victoria's phone rang. It was her Uncle James from Toronto. She put him on speaker. James was talking about the wedding, how he was flying out for it. Then he said, "I'm so glad you're keeping it just family, Vicky. Your dad would have wanted that. No outsiders, just the people who really matter." Victoria laughed. She actually laughed. She said, "I know, right? That's exactly what I wanted. Just real family." My blood went cold. Patricia kept her eyes glued to the spreadsheet. Connor shifted uncomfortably. I asked Victoria what her uncle meant by no outsiders. She took the phone off speaker, walked into the kitchen, and came back 5 minutes later. I asked again. She sighed like I was being a nuisance. "Robert," Uncle James was just excited. "Victoria," I said, my voice level. "What did he mean?" She looked at Connor. Connor looked at his feet. Then she said it. "Robert, you've been great. You really have. But this is my wedding day. It's about honoring my real dad's memory. I think it would be better if you didn't come." I thought I'd misheard her. "What?" "I don't want you at the wedding." Patricia finally looked up, but she didn't say a word. "Victoria," I said, "I'm paying for the entire wedding." "I know, and I'm grateful," she said, and her voice was almost pitying. "But this isn't about money. Having you there, sitting in the front row like you're my dad. It just feels wrong. My dad died. You're not him. You're just Robert." The room went silent. Connor whispered, "Vicky, maybe we should talk later." She ignored him. "You always acted like you had some right to be involved in my life. Like I owed you something. I'm 28. I don't need a dad anymore. I especially don't need a fake one." I stood up. I had to move before I lost my mind. "So, you want me to pay for a wedding I'm not allowed to attend?" "I mean, if you want to put it that way, yes," she said. "I'm not saying you have to pay for it, But you offered. If you don't want to anymore, that's fine. Connor and I will figure it out. She was so casual about it. Like 14 years of my life were just a line item on a budget. I looked at Patricia. She was crying silent, heavy tears, but she didn't open her mouth. She didn't tell Victoria to stop. She didn't defend the man who had stood by her side for over a decade. That's when the truth hit me. Patricia agreed. She might not have had the nerve to say it, but her silence was her signature on that eviction notice. I was the outsider. I had always been the bank, never the father. "All right," I said, my voice eerily calm. Victoria blinked. "All right, what?" "All right, I won't come to the wedding." "Anything else?" She actually smiled. Relief washed over her face like she'd just finished a chore. "No, that's it. I'm glad you're being so cool about this, Robert. This doesn't change anything between us. I still care about you, but I need this day to be right." Connor stood up, looking like he wanted to crawl into a hole. They gathered their spreadsheets and headed for the door. Before she stepped out, Victoria turned. "Thanks for understanding. You're a good guy." Then they were gone. Patricia and I sat in that cavernous living room in total silence. Finally she whispered, "She didn't mean it the way it sounded." "Yes, she did. She's just emotional. She misses her father. You can't take it personally." "Patricia," I said, looking her dead in the eye, "your daughter just told me I've been a 14-year-old pretender. And you sat there and let her. You didn't say one word in my defense. What was I supposed to say?" She snapped. "She's my daughter. I can't control her feelings." "You could have told her she was wrong," I said. "But maybe she isn't. Maybe we've all been pretending." That was it. My marriage died in that living room. I didn't argue. I didn't yell. I just walked upstairs, closed my office door, and started making those phone calls. The next morning, I told Patricia I had business to attend to. I met with my lawyer, Dorothy. I've known her for 30 years. I told her the plan. "Are you sure, Robert?" She asked. "This is going to burn a lot of bridges, asterisk. They lit the fire, Dorothy. I'm just providing the wind." We talked about the house. I'd bought it 5 years before I even met Patricia. It was in my name alone, a 4-bedroom beauty in North Vancouver with mountain views worth $2 million. Dorothy confirmed she had no claim to it. I told her to sell it. Now. Next was my financial advisor, Gerald. I liquidated the investments. I separated the accounts. I pulled back every cent that wasn't legally hers. Then I met Marcus, the real estate agent. "I want it sold by the end of the month," I told him. When I got home, Patricia asked where I'd been. "Taking care of things," I said. "Victoria called," she said. "She wants to have dinner next week to finalize wedding details." "You go," I said. "I'm done." 2 weeks later, the for sale sign went up. Patricia came home from her book club, her face ghostly pale. "Why is there a sign on our lawn?" "Because I'm selling the house." "You can't do that. I live here." "Not for much longer." "Robert, what is going on?" She screamed. "I'm disappearing, Patricia. Isn't that what Victoria wanted? For me to not be an outsider in her life? Well, I'm removing the outsider from the equation. I'm removing the house, the money, and the man." She started begging. She talked about counseling. I told her counseling wouldn't change the fact that after 14 years, I was still just a wallet to her. The house sold in 9 days. Cash offer. $2.3 million. I accepted on the spot. Patricia moved into a hotel, calling me 10 times a day, sobbing. I didn't answer. Then Victoria called. She was furious. "You're being cruel to my mother. You're punishing us for one mistake." I already said I was sorry. "You didn't say you were sorry," I said. "You said you felt bad." "There's a difference. Fine. I'm sorry. Is that what you want? It's 14 years too late, I replied. I spent over a decade being there for you, and the second it mattered, you told me I was nobody. So I'm acting like nobody. I'm disappearing, just like you asked. I'm not coming to the wedding, and I'm definitely not paying for it. You're 28. Figure it out, but you promised. She shrieked. And you promised I was family. We both lied, I guess. I hung up. Connor called the next day, trying to be the adult in the room. Connor, this doesn't involve you, I said. My voice was like ice. It kind of does, he countered. You're pulling the funding for our wedding, Robert. I'm pulling funding for a wedding I'm not allowed to attend. That seems like basic math to me, Connor. He hesitated, then took a breath. Look, Victoria is willing to invite you now. If that's what it takes. I don't want a pity invitation. I wanted respect. Since that's apparently not a currency you deal in, I'm removing myself from the equation. I didn't wait for his rebuttal. I hung up. Closing day arrived. I'd already moved my life into a storage unit and a small temporary condo downtown. The night before the new owners took possession, I went back to the house one last time. My footsteps echoed on the naked hardwood. I walked through the living room where my heart had been carved out. I walked through the kitchen where 14 years of coffee and conversation had been shared. Then, I left something on the counter, a heavy black binder. Inside was a ledger of every cent I'd spent on Victoria. Tuition, rent, cars, business debts, medical bills, even the groceries. Chronologically organized. Total, $473.00. At the end of the binder was a letter. Victoria, you said I wasn't your father. You said I was an outsider. You were right about the title, but wrong about the heart. I never pretended. This binder is what care looks like in financial terms. I'm not asking for a refund. Money was never the point. But I want you to understand what it means when someone chooses to be there for you when they don't have to be. I'm respecting your request to disappear. I hope your life is full of people who meet your standards of what real family means. Take care of yourself, Robert. I locked the door and walked away. The next morning, my phone exploded at 7:30 a.m. It was Patricia. She was screaming a raw, jagged sound I'd never heard from her. She had gone back to the house to pick up a few things and found the binder. She'd called Victoria. They were both there, sitting on the floor of an empty kitchen, staring at the cost of 14 years. You're cruel. Patricia shrieked. You're petty. You've turned a family disagreement into a war. Patricia, I said calmly. Victoria told me to disappear. I'm gone. Why are you surprised? You've destroyed her. The wedding is in 6 weeks. How is she supposed to pay for it? That's a problem for her real family to solve. $400,000, Robert. You kept track of every penny? What kind of monster does that? The kind of man who wanted to remember that he mattered, I replied, since it was clear nobody else was going to remember it for me. Then Victoria grabbed the phone. She was sobbing so hard she could barely choke out the words. I'm sorry, Robert. I didn't mean it. I was stupid and selfish. I see now what you did for me. Victoria, I said, and for the first time, I felt nothing. You meant every word. The only thing you're sorry about now is that there are consequences. Please, don't do this. You can come to the wedding. You can sit in the front row. You can walk me down the aisle. Anything. I don't want a seat at a table where I had to buy my way in, I said. I wanted to be treated like I mattered. You made it clear that I don't. So now I'm living accordingly, I told her. She begged. She promised she'd pay back every single cent, even though we both knew she didn't have a dime. Keep your money, I said. Spend it on therapy instead. Maybe you can figure out why you think the people who love you are disposable. Then, I hung up. Over the next week, the vultures started circling. I got calls from Uncle James in Toronto, from Connor, from Patricia's sisters, all of them telling me I was being unreasonable. All of them claiming I was destroying the family over nothing. I stopped answering. I stopped explaining. Connor eventually sent an email. The Vineyard wedding was dead. They'd moved it to a small restaurant in Vancouver. The guest list slashed from 200 down to 50. No quartet. No imported flowers. Just a quiet dinner and a lot of questions. He said Victoria was devastated. He said Patricia had turned on her daughter, blaming her for the financial ruin of the family. He asked one last time if I'd reconsider. I didn't even hit reply. The wedding happened. I saw the photos on Facebook. Victoria in a simple dress, Connor in a plain suit. They were smiling for the camera, but the light was gone. I felt nothing looking at those pictures. No anger, no satisfaction. Just a vast, empty distance. 3 months later, Patricia filed for divorce. I didn't fight it. Dorothy handled the paperwork, and it was over in 6 months. Patricia sent one final letter, calling me a bitter small man who couldn't handle a bruised ego. She said she'd wasted 14 years on me. I didn't respond to that either. Victoria sent a letter too rambling, full of apologies and excuses about wedding stress. She said she'd spend the rest of her life being grateful for what I'd done. I didn't believe her, but I appreciated the effort it took to lie. I moved to Victoria, the city, not the person. I bought a small house overlooking the Pacific, a quiet place where the only noise is the tide. I started teaching financial literacy at a community center. I joined a hiking group. I finally picked up a paintbrush. When people ask if I have family, I tell them I used to, but not anymore. They don't ask why. Revenge isn't about hurting people. It's about reclaiming your dignity. It's about refusing to let someone treat you like you're invisible while they're reaching for your wallet. I didn't destroy that family. They did that the moment they decided I was an outsider who only existed to serve them. Victoria wanted me to disappear. So I did. Not the way she wanted, where I'd quietly pay the bills from the shadows and stay in my place. I disappeared completely. I took my time, my energy, and my respect, and I gave them to people who actually deserve them. That isn't cruelty. That's self-preservation. Last month, Connor messaged me. They have a daughter now. They named her Patricia. He said Victoria wants to do better with her child than she did with the people who cared for her. He asked if I'd be open to talking. I read it twice. Then I deleted it. I'm 63 years old. I don't have time to teach grown adults how to be human beings. I have a painting class this afternoon. Tomorrow, I'm hiking Mount Douglas. My life is quiet, but it's full, and most importantly, it's mine. Victoria got exactly what she asked for. I disappeared. And in the silence I left behind, I finally found myself. Family isn't a blood type. It's a commitment. If you've ever had to walk away to keep your soul, you aren't alone. If Robert's story hit home, hit that like button and subscribe for more grandpa stories about respect and second chances. Drop a comment and tell me, is there a point where forgiveness is impossible? Write truth in the comments if you believe self-respect comes first. I'll see you in the next story. God bless.